welcome to Bass Tag. This is a video game of tag on YouTube that the Maxproud channel started. Thank you, Earl. This was an excellent idea of yours, I believe. Anyway, the Bass Tag, as according to Earl, is for the community of bassists to get to know each other by answering 10 simple questions. So, here we go. Oh, my name's Jacob Skelton. Welcome to my abode here in Cedarvale, Kansas. Okay, now let's begin. Question number 1. Why the bass? Well, that's a good question. And I believe for me the answer is, when I was a child, my dad was a guitar player. And there just happened to be this bass out on a guitar stand that was never used. And so I was probably 11, 12 years old, somewhere in there, and I thought, wouldn't it be fun to play some music with my dad? And not just pick up another guitar and play the same thing he was playing, but rather actually try to play a song with him. And so that was really my first experience with the bass guitar. And it was this bass guitar here. This is a 1966 Fender Precision bass. And I've had this bass ever since then. Question number 2. Did you start with the bass or play the guitar before picking up the bass? Well, when I was 7 or 8, my dad bought for me a acoustic guitar. And I didn't stick with it. Went to a couple of lessons, and at 7 or 8 years old decided the pain that goes along with building up calluses on your fingers, that was not for me. And so I didn't learn to play the guitar at that time. Question number 3. What's your main bass right now? Well, for me, it's not this one. As much as I like this bass, it is mainly has a sentimental value for me. I really don't care much for playing this bass. It's just heavy and, truth be told, not very player friendly. Oh, it's playable, just for my short stubbies. It's just a little too long of a scale. So, this is my main bass now. This is my Ibanez SR 305 5-string electric bass, and a very dusty one at that. This bass is very playable, and I really enjoy playing this bass. Question number 4. Do you prefer 4, 5, or 6-string basses, or even more strings than that? Me personally, I actually really like having the low B, the 5 strings on a bass. It just gives me a little bit more flexibility, especially down around on those lower notes. As far as 6 strings or more, I'm really glad that those basses are out there, and I'm glad that other people enjoy playing them. They're not for me. Again, it comes down to short, stubby fingers, and I just don't get up here that often. Who was your first bass mentor? Well, I was in the 8th grade when I really started to play the bass a little bit. And when I started in the 9th grade, the first day of school, they for some reason put me down in the drama class. That was not for me. Well, that same morning, the band instructor just happened to come into the classroom, and I immediately got up and pulled him to the side when I had a moment and asked him if he had a bass player in the high school jazz band, and he said no, and I said, well, if you will get me out of this class, I will play the jazz bass for you. And he had me in jazz band the next day. But my first mentor was actually a new math teacher at the high school. He began teaching that same year. His name is Tracy Coons, an incredible bass player. He had some really long fingers on his hand. He could span easily 5 frets. And it was kind of a funny story. I just learned a few years ago that he was the bass player in the band that my mother's husband started 25 years ago. Anyway, he was my first real bass mentor. He taught me a lot, and he was an incredible bass player himself. Question number 6. Which style of playing do you prefer? Using a pick, finger style, or slapping and popping? Me, I prefer to use my fingers. I like the finger style the best. I have another cheap bass in the other room. It's a GSR 200 that I bought 4 or 5 months ago because I would like to learn how to do some slapping and popping. I've never really played the bass with a pick. I've just always used finger style, and it's worked out pretty well for me. Question number 7. What style of music do you love playing bass to? I love jazz. I always have. And so I really enjoy playing jazz bass. But I also grew up listening to country music. So I always love playing bass with some country music. But for the past few years, I have really started playing the bass in contemporary Christian rock genre. That's my favorite genre to play bass in right now. And having played jazz bass and having played country bass has really helped me to play in the contemporary Christian music world. Question number 8. Do you play the upright or the synthetic bass? Synth bass, no. I'm glad it's there, out there, and I'm glad people enjoy it. It's just not the sound that I really care for. The upright bass, yes, absolutely. I call it a bass fiddle. I've heard it called so many things over the years: upright bass, double bass, doghouse bass. So I just decided to throw in my own name out there, and it looks just like a giant fiddle, and it's a bass, so I call it a bass fiddle. That's what it is. The first working band that I played in, where we actually got paid to play gigs, I was playing the bass fiddle, the family band, and it was a tangent off of the bluegrass genre. And so for that style of music, you've really got to have the bass fiddle to get the right sound out of it. And that was a blast. That was a lot of fun to play. And did a lot of double slapping of the big old bass fiddle. Question number 9. Read notation, sheet music, or play by ear, or use tablature. When I was in high school, yes, I did use a lot of sheet music. Not so much anymore. I mean, it's been over 20 years. And I can do it again. Just need to spend a little bit of time refreshing my memory on how to read the bass clef and different notes, and I can pick it up again. Since then, I've just been playing by ear. Tab, I don't really care for it. You know, I have my own reservations against using tablature. But like the synthetic bass, I'm glad it's out there, and I'm glad that people are able to make use of tablature and read it. So But tab is not for me. Just play by ear. That's how I do it. And finally, the last question. Is there an instrument you don't play that you wish you could? Well, absolutely. I think most musicians have an instrument in mind that he or she can't play but would absolutely love to. The two big ones for me would be the drums. I absolutely love the drums. I have spent hours at a time watching YouTube videos of just drummers playing their drums. And not just the trap set, but also marching bands in high school and college marching bands who have a good drum line. One of my favorites, if you don't know about them, check out Top Secret Drum Corps. Those guys are phenomenal. Very impressive. The other one would be a piano. There are plenty of piano players in my family. I just never have really spent the time to sit down behind the keyboard and play it. Now I can play the basic major and minor chords and some seventh chords and the scales to go along with them, but I just never have sat down to work up the coordination to put something together. But I love the sound of the piano. I would love to learn how to play the piano. So there are my answers to those 10 questions. Again, Earl and Maxproud, great idea. Thank you. I'm really glad that you set all this up, and I've watched quite a few of the other responses to the Maxproud bass tag, and have enjoyed them also. So anyway, there it is. Keep on thumping that bass.